Welcome to Robotics and Automation News webinars, where you can be part of a global event without leaving your home or office. Attend our live webinars and communicate directly with influential professionals in your industry.
Hello, my name is Abdul Montakim. I'm editor of Robotics and Automation News.com. In this interview, I speak to Andrew Schutte, General Manager of Counterpart ERP, an enterprise resource platform which enables users to directly work with 3D models designed in SolidWorks, as Andrew will explain.
So my name is Andrew Schutte. I work at SolidWorks here in Holland, Michigan, United States. I'm the general manager and predominantly responsible for the general management, administration, and direction of the company, but specifically focus most of my time on the technical product development of Counterpart, our ERP solution.
And tell us about Counterpart. I'm at the website now. Hopefully you can see it and the audience can see it. I'll explore the website while we talk and hopefully use it to underline and emphasize things that you might say, explain them better. But give us a high-level overview of Counterpart to begin with, and then we'll go into some specifics.
Absolutely. Counterpart is a very unique ERP solution that was specifically developed for the job or project-based engineer to order or ETO type manufacturers. Really, all of our customers are presented with a challenge by their customers, and they are asked to design, manufacture, assemble, and then commission or implement or install and service or maintain for a period of time unique equipment that is either highly configurable, customizable, or just from the bottom up, never before been done.
And I mean, I know a little bit about ERPs, enterprise resource planning. I think that's it stands for, and it does things like I thought it was mostly administrative and accounting, that sort of thing that it does, lists parts and their prices and enables people who use ERPs to kind of I don't know, organize everything in a certain way more efficiently. But you mentioned that I can see here on your website, SolidWorks prominently displayed. SolidWorks is a very well-known 3D computer-aided design application, CAD applicator software. So that must be an important part of this. And you were saying about something about integration of such software into ERPs. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Absolutely. My professional background is an automations mechanical engineer, and a lot of my work was focused in the automotive and office furniture industry, two very prominent industries here in the western side of the lower peninsula of Michigan, Holland or greater Grand Rapids area. And the predominant software used here in West Michigan and generally around the world for this type of design is SolidWorks. And the specific challenge is if I am designing a machine, either a brand new machine that's never before been done, or modifying an existing machine or taking a standardized SolidWorks design and modifying it for the particular application. Inside of SolidWorks, I have a wealth of information, right? Obviously the 3D mechanical design itself, the 2D manufacturing drawing, as those are still prevalent today. There's a lot of property data. So what is the material, which isn't necessarily a three-dimensional aspect. So what is the material designator? What is the surface finish? What is the tolerancing of this particular component in manufacturing? What might be the color of the finish, et cetera, et cetera. So as an engineer, I'm designing a machine I've never designed before that then needs to be manufactured and produced. One of the challenges with custom design, custom engineering, custom engineer to order solutions is the design is kind of never done and it's always changing up until the point when the machine finally ships to the customer. So when we are designing, and when the design is partially done or fully done, or it is ready for release, but then changes still have to be made, there's a exorbitant amount of data that has to be transferred to other departments, other people, other places. For example, as an engineer, I may design a robot, a 6-axis robot from any one of the major manufacturers, right? Whether it's ABB or Fanuc or Kawasaki, Motorman, whatever it might be. So I may have I might have a robot in my design. Well, that robot needs to be purchased. So I need to effectively communicate somehow, and mistakes cost time and cost money. So I need to effectively communicate to the purchasing agent what brand, what make, what model, what specifications of that 6-axis robot need to be purchased for this particular project. Likewise, the design that you have on your screen there's some purchased items, there's some shoulder screws, flange bushings, spring plungers, and then there's also some manufacturer details as what's highlighted on the screen right now. So that raw stock needs to be purchased. The instructions need to be sent to the machine shop to take that stock, cut it on the saw, machine it on the mill, maybe coat it, maybe get it quality controlled for the manufacturing of that part. And that part realistically was designed from scratch and has never before been made. So in the totality of SolidWorks, that exact geometry, or if it had been made, it would be a fluke. That exact geometry hadn't been made before. So unlike other ERP systems where they work off an itemized part master and they would do a very good job at manufacturing the same component tens or hundreds of thousands of times, in Counterpart, we specialize in manufacturing the items that have never before been designed, never before been made. So it's a very large data set. In this particular context, we have a tree structure. So it's a multi-level indented data set where these parts make up this assembly, these 3 assemblies make up that assembly, and this assembly with these 5 other parts and those other assemblies make up yet another assembly. So it's a very complex multi-data tiered structure that all unique components have to be manufactured or purchased or pulled from inventory in the context that they're standardized components, and then manufactured, assembled, tested, delivered to the customer, and then maintained from a maintenance or a warranty or an update standpoint for a very long period of time.
Right, and as I was saying, I kind of thought that ERPs were more about administration accounts, that's a non-engineering part, if you like. So this is kind of new to me. Counterpart seems to be an ERP that seems to be more like a design integration tool, if I can put it like that. I don't know if that makes it different from other ERPs that I've heard of, or are all ERPs the same? I thought most ERPs, when you look at them and things like that, it's mostly lists of things, basically. And I can't remember things that integrate 3D CAD software. I've heard of product lifecycle management software as well, but that one I thought maybe does integrate CAD software in it. I don't know what is the difference between a ERP and a PLM, product lifecycle management software?
Yeah, great question. Our industry is full of acronyms, as you know. I'll start with maybe the CAD side of it. So CAD, CAD, computer aided design. So SolidWorks is CAD, CATIA is CAD, Autodesk Inventor or Fusion. They're all CAD products. So CAD would focus on the 3D mechanical or 3D physical design, the 2D manufacturing drawings. And that's kind of the foundational of engineering design. There's a different product called PDM, and some CAD systems have PDM integrated. So Fusion 360 would be an example of that. But PDM, product data management, is a place to store your CAD files. In the case of SolidWorks, it is optional. You can use SolidWorks without PDM, but PDM is a controlled space where you can save SolidWorks files, manage the SolidWorks files at a PDM standpoint. And then PLM, which was the acronym you brought up, Product Lifecycle Management, the best example that I can give for that is probably in the aerospace or the medical industry, where they want to manage the life cycle. They want to say, we designed this part passed these tests, this part went into production. Oh, we designed a better part, so we're going to no longer manufacture that old part after this particular date and time, and here's the new part that's going to replace it. So it's kind of managing the life cycle, whether it's design, manufacturing, build, service, supports, of that entire part throughout its life, which is a little bit different than where the SolidWorks file is actually stored from a PDM standpoint, which is a little bit different from the SolidWorks software that actually designs and manages, manipulates, and changes this 3D CAD model itself. And ERP would kind of be different than all of those together. ERP could operate with SolidWorks in Counterpart's particular case, or could operate out without SolidWorks. Counterpart can work without SolidWorks. We have some customers that don't necessarily have SolidWorks used inside of the software. But ERP's major design core, or the primary function of ERP, is managing the resources, the materials, and the manufacturing and the production building. So as you're seeing in the video that we're watching here, there's a series of engineers designing components. There's a series of purchasing that are managing the purchases and the builds. And then there's the assembly side of things. We have to physically put the components together. And then, of course, there's changes along the way.
Yeah, it's a lot of information and data. I mean, manufacturing is complex to begin with. I mean, it's well known that it's hugely complex, and it had a huge number of barriers to entry in the past, I suppose. If you wanted to get into manufacture, it wasn't as easy as it probably is now. I should ask you about that. What do you think? I mean, now, is it more, is it easier, if not easy necessarily, for startups to sort of emerge and get into manufacturing because of software, fairly powerful software like ERPs? You know, they can organize things, have all their data in one place. I have heard of PDM, product data management, as just the acronym and what it is. So they're all fairly new as far as I know, or maybe I've come to them late. But I suppose that's the question. Are these things relatively new, all these different acronym type software, and do they make things easier for startups? Certainly, the larger companies seem to be adopting them, using them, so there must be some benefit to them.
Yeah, so in the manufacturing space, it's a pretty interesting question. I think manufacturing today is quite challenging because the precision that we're able to manufacture items and the ease of quality checking and control is significantly higher. So for example, if you bought a brand new CNC mill today, whether it's a Haas or a Herco or a Doosan or any number of the manufacturers, a brand new machine today for a reasonable amount of money is significantly more accurate and precise than a similar machine from 10, 15, 20 years ago. And so I think that the general expectation of a machine shop manufacturing a part for me, my expectation is quite a bit higher because the equipment is quite a bit more capable. And then to combine that, you have to have a particular amount of skilled trade labor, which, as we all know, the trades tend to be declining, the wages are rising due to supply and demand, and the younger generation doesn't see the trades as lucrative or as appealing as maybe a university degree and sitting behind a desk. So there's a particular challenge there, finding the labor, training the next generation, and enabling the workforce of tomorrow to use these more accurate, more precise, more sophisticated equipment to manufacture an ever increasingly demanding components that are being designed today with new technologies that we've never had before. I think ERP certainly helps. Counterpart is a very cost competitive, capable ERP system that will help drive revenue and increased profits for the company, properly used, properly implemented, and removes a lot of frustration to manage all of this data with Excel or email or sticky notes, or just somebody keeping it in their mind. So it certainly helps with that, but it does also bring a level of complexity. Getting a print email to me, asking me to make 10 of them, making 10 of a part, and then driving it over to the guy and getting paid is a lot simpler than entering into a system, having an ERP system, having an accounting system, right? And kind of today's technology and business of the day just requires or mandates a higher degree of complexity in the data systems and information. So one unique thing that Counterpart does very well is, because we integrate with SolidWorks, we have pictures and properties throughout ERP. So if I don't know if the viewers are able to see your screen right now or the video that's playing, but in the Counterpart ERP solution, you're able to see the thumbnail images of the SolidWorks data and the SolidWorks properties of the component that you're looking at all throughout the software. So in this particular instance, we're looking at the assembly screen of what needs to be assembled. And we're able to see a wealth of information. Counterpart brings a lot more information, making it a lot more user-friendly and a lot more intuitive if I can see the picture of what I'm trying to do versus just seeing a bunch of texts and lists. So I think you had mentioned earlier that your understanding of ERP is often a lot of texts, a lot of lists, a lot of grids, a lot of data. And certainly Counterpart has that as well, because it's just required information to make an ERP work. But we also have a lot of pictures and visual data that gives users a lot more information than just a list of words would.
Yeah, that is what I was driving at, I suppose. I mean, I've only probably seen one or two ERPs to that extent. The video that we just saw now, where there was the list there. I like that video actually. I'll play it again because, yeah, that was exactly what you pointed out. Is exactly what I was thinking about. So you got these actual images of the parts, the CAD sort of the images. They're 3D, they're very clear, and you got all the lists that you'd expect if you know ERPs. As I say, I've only seen one or two ERPs just as part of research, and yeah, they've all been lists, and this is quite interesting to look at. Pictures are always interesting. I really like CAD things in general, and to be able to deal with the text, the data, the lists, and see the part at the same time. Yeah, it looks like a really good solution. Is this unusual? Is your company, is Counterpart the only one offering this?
To our knowledge, to your point, there are a couple other ERPs that support pictures, but Counterpart, as far as we know, are the only ones that automatically include pictures courtesy of our SolidWorks integration. So every single one of these images was automatically scalped from the SolidWorks document. It took nobody any time or any effort, so it just magically comes with our product. Nobody has to go out of their way for these pictures, and the pictures are continually updated and continually updated based on the modification of the component. So if we were doing a demo, I would change.
Sorry, if you don't mind, I'll just interrupt you there. So, say for example, I'm sitting here using this ERP, and my colleague is somewhere in the building designing the part that I'm dealing with. Would it be able to update the data in real time while I'm looking at it? So say if he,
Yes, yep,
all right, that is very,
absolutely.
yeah, that's very impressive.
So as the engineer, if I make a change or if I make a modification to the component, that change is instantly propagated through properties, through the image, through if I change the bill of material, it'll be changed through the structure. And all of those modifications happen in real time, as is necessary when you're doing custom engineer to order projects, because you've never done it before. And so mistakes are bound to happen, or mistakes might be a little harsh, but changes are bound to happen simply because there's a lot of variance in project to project, right? Nobody can be an expert and you can't automate it. Otherwise, otherwise there'd be no reason to pay the humans to design it if it was an easy repeat job. So it's a very human intensive, very human, high degree of human creativity and initiative to come up with various solutions to the customer problems, engineer and design those that equipment to solve that particular challenge, and then you have to manufacture it. So it's a great melting pot of many different skilled trades and disciplines, whether it's sales, project management, estimating, quoting, winning the business, managing the engineering cycle, the design sign off from the customer, the release to manufacturing, the manufacturing segments, and then the installation, commissioning, and then long-term maintenance, because some equipment from our customers lasts 30 to 40 years in the field. So you have to maintain records and make them searchable and be able to find out, what did you do 30 years ago and what part do we have to build to get the customer's machine running again? Because every hour it's down, it costs them money.
Yeah, I'm very impressed. I like this. I mean, people always have ideas. I'm no different. I have ideas for making things, and I've looked into what software you need. Also, partly to write about them, or at least understand them a little bit. ERPs is one of those things, and this is it's very impressive. I didn't know this was possible, and it's interesting that you say about changes. It's inevitable that changes will be made, but I wonder if there might be people, designers especially, they make a lot of changes, and there has to be cutoff points at which the ERP or the people who have to order the materials and parts and things like that can't have changes made after they have actually placed orders for things.
Or you throw it away and you start over.
Yeah. It's very interesting. How long has Counterpart been going, and what would tell us about the business side of it? What kind of customers it has, what sectors they're from, and maybe an overview of the size of the company and things like that.
Yeah, so we're located here in Holland, Michigan, United States. We have about 14 employees here inside the office, and then salespeople and support throughout the nation. Counterpart has a strong presence in West Michigan here, because that's obviously where we're based out of, but a lot in the food industry. So every time, a new Snickers bar is designed, somebody has to build equipment to manufacture tens of thousands of millions of Snickers bars, every week, every month, whatever it might be. Bottle packaging is another big one. So this video here in particular shows several of our customers. But every time you go to the grocery store, there's a new bottle for orange juice or a new bottle for soda. And so there's equipment builders. This particular picture here is Fog Filler Company here in Holland is one of them. But there's a lot of equipment manufacturing that goes into the creation of the consumer goods that you find at your local grocery store. We have customers in the drone, aerospace drone defense industry, customers in the high power and transmission lines, so the 40, 50, 60-foot power transmission poles are being designed in SolidWorks and manufactured with Counterpart. Customers ranging from, another food processing customer that makes bandsaws to cut up different slices of meat. A lot of automation customers in the automotive or office furniture. So again, Ford designs a new car part, or even Herman Miller or Steelcase would be big office manufacturing companies here in West Michigan. They design a new chair or new office panels. A lot in automotive, we have customers that do like injection mold or surface wrap tooling, that kind of aspect for the fake leather or the real leather interiors in your cars. Somebody has to make the tooling and the molds to support all that. So that would kind of be our customer base. The universal consistency throughout our industry is going to be custom engineered to order. I've never before designed, never before made this exact thing. Maybe it's the same as except, or maybe it's a slight variation of something done prior. But most of our customers design brand new things or things that are 90% new every day. And then they have to manufacture something they've never manufactured before. And that's where Counterpart really excels and what it was initially designed to service. And we do an exceptional job at it.
Yeah, that's really interesting that a lot of people are designing things that haven't been made before. Does that present problems of its own? I've heard of things, situations where designers design things that are very difficult to, or impossible to manufacture. That's one aspect of it. And the other is, the idea of there are when you're designing a brand new thing, prototyping it, maybe it's an option to use 3D printing and things like that. How prevalent is that? How is that a growing aspect of it? People using 3D printing methods for prototyping or any other, maybe even production. I don't know. That's obviously not an issue for an ERP, is it? It just needs to send the file to a 3D printing machine somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Many of our customers have 3D printers. And as you said, a lot of it is for prototyping, right? I can design something and within a couple hours have a rough model in my hand, a rough part in my hand printed from that model. Depends on the industry. Rarely do we see 3D printing used in production. And a lot of it just comes down to the industry. So if it's in the food and beverage industry, there's really not any 3D printing that's FDA approved or something that can hold up to the chemicals and the sanitization. If it's in a high stress industry like heavy metal, it's generally not strong enough or doesn't resist enough heat for welding or manufacturing or some of the coatings and whatnot. But 3D printing is very prevalent, especially in the prototyping phase, and especially to try to get a reality on your design. For example, as a designer, I can design something that's 10 thousandths big or 10 feet big and 10 thousandths in size or 10 foot in size. And looking at it on the SolidWorks screen, it looks the same. So unless I have a really good imagination and I can imagine what a 10-foot bar of steel looks like in reality, or imagine what a 10 thousandths diameter pin looks like in reality, a lot of times the 3D printing or the rapid prototyping machine helps with that. From an ERP standpoint, we handle it all the same. An engineer can draw anything that they want, and they can ask the ERP, you need to make this for me, or you need to procure it, would be the technical term. And if it's a standard part, Counterpart can procure items out of inventory, right? Here's a sensor. I've used 1,000 sensors before. We have 100 sensors in inventory. Just give them a sensor. If it's a brand new part we've never seen before, we can either buy it or make it. If it's sheet metal, I might send it to the sheet metal shop to buy that sheet metal, to have it manufactured on my behalf. If it's a machined part, I might send it to my own machine shop to have it machined If it's a 3D printed part, maybe I have a 3D printer, maybe I pay somebody else to 3D print it for me. But a core aspect of ERP is procurement. We have to procure the items that engineering designs and get it for them in the time frame in accordance with the guidelines that engineering specifies.
Yeah, it's very interesting what you're saying because at the moment, robotics and automation news is. We decided to. We've been going for 5 years, and we decided to hold an awards competition this year for the first time. And I was looking around for some ideas for a trophy, and I came across this very interesting looking thing. I hope you can see my screen. So
Yeah, I
this
think
is,
that's a generative design out of the Autodesk product suite.
yeah, absolutely right. It's actually something that a company called MX3D with Altair, I think.
Yep.
But the MX3D is the company that I first came across, and they've designed this thing. It's, as you can see, um, it replaces a cylindrical part or a part that's solid. So they've used a lot less material, and it looks really interesting. My interest in, apart from the fact that it actually makes for an interesting story for our website, the actual object itself looks really nice. So I was thinking of, this is probably about 1 meter tall, and I was thinking about using it as a trophy, but in a miniaturized version, maybe 20 centimeters maximum height. That would mean that I would have to reduce the scale of it in a 3D application of some sort, SolidWorks possibly. I just don't know how to use SolidWorks, never used it. Wouldn't know how to do it. So even if for example, somebody gave me, MX3D gave me the CAD files or whatever you call them for the object, I wouldn't know what to do with it. So, but I'm guessing that maybe it could be something that would be possible to upload, if I can use the wrong term, into Counterpart as a SolidWorks file, and then take it from there in terms of decide what material should be used, and maybe some slight design changes. The actual the part itself, as you can probably see, doesn't come with a plinth. They put it on a little platform here, plinth, I guess you could call it. So that's an additional extra that probably wouldn't come with the design that or we'd have to do. But anyway, I'm talking to them about getting it. And is that something that you could see being done in Counterpart, and then sent to a 3D printer? I mean, it sounds a bit too straightforward for you. You probably deal with customers are dealing with far more complex projects.
Yeah, I mean, Counterpart could certainly handle the manufacturing processes. In that particular context, you might pay somebody to 3D print it. You might pay somebody else to finish, right? Sand or finish or polish the model. You might pay somebody else to paint it or chrome plate it or whatever you want your finishing to be. So you might have several steps there, several different purchase orders or credit card transactions to several different vendors, depending on what your end result would be. As far as scaling it goes, that would purely just be a CAD aspect. There would be no Counterpart advantage there. Whether the people who provide you the CAD, they could potentially scale it, or I could in SolidWorks, or really anybody could in any modern CAD, 3D modeler application.
Yeah, you say anybody, I don't think I could do it. I'd have a go, but I've used one or two just out of curiosity, Fusion and AutoCAD, and they're really fascinating, but they're very complicated. I've done a lot of 2D design, InDesign and Quark Express, you probably Never heard of that one, but it's basically for magazines and newspapers. It's 2D, as I like to call them. 3D, I love it, but it's a lot more complex. There's more menus, more buttons, more things going on. I find it very, very difficult, and I honestly don't think I could scale it down. I know it sounds simple, but I don't think I could scale it down from whatever it is now, a meter or so high, to maybe a fifth of that. Um so it would need somebody who's familiar with applications like that. But it's such an interesting area. The generative design as aspect of it as well interests me. Do you see anything particularly innovative? You say that there's a lot of people who are designing new things. You probably have one or two things that you've seen that have caught your eye that are particularly innovative and interesting.
Yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff that I see, I'm usually under NDAs for.
Oh,
Um, we see a lot of really cool stuff we can't talk about, which is always fun. But
okay.
yeah, I'll keep it in mind, certainly.
Yeah, all right. Well, it's been really good talking to you. I don't know what else I can ask. It's certainly interesting. Is there something that you'd like to say that maybe I should have asked that is important and don't want to regret not getting the important information? Is there anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, from a counterpart standpoint, the uniqueness of the counterpart product solution is the focus on never before manufactured engineer to order. It's a very distinctive market compared to the discrete manufacturers that make tens of hundreds of thousands of the same component in a tightly controlled ISO type environment for automotive or medical or office furniture or consumer products. So we're pretty unique in that context, and that's really where our main advantage would would be presented to your readers, is the people that do different unique stuff all the time, design it and make it.
All right. And one last question. Is it difficult to learn this software? Because it does look quite, it looks like a nice user-friendly interface, but there's a hell of a lot going on. The information is relating to the design as well as materials, as well as probably other things. I don't know. It looks quite difficult to learn to use.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And there's a lot of, we would call them ERP horror stories, right? Somebody
Okay.
implements an ERP and it's 7 months later, the next year, and they're still struggling to get it working. And certainly in the industry, ERP has a very long spin up time reputation, right? Anybody says ERP, they think their business is going to suffer for the next 6 to 9 months. Counterpart's a little bit unique in that we've designed a very agile system that's very easy to set up and train on. One example that I would probably provide as our best case scenario is we had a customer that had about 200 employees. They're about $50 million a year in revenue. They were managing their company on Excel because they couldn't find any ERP solution that fit their business model. So they found us and were very excited. And so they bought Counterpart, and we sent one implementer to their facility. They were out of state. So we sent one implementer to their facility for 2 weeks. And after he left, they were fully up and running and fully functional. And then about 2 months later, that same implementer went down for about a 3-day follow-up. And that went very well. So to date, we set up a $50 million a year company with about 200 employees, with about 15 days on site of training the entire company, and they've been using it with great success.
Okay. Yeah, that is a very important question, actually. I'm glad I asked it. And it's something that I think makes a difference between whether somebody adopts or uses the software or not, really. I do remember when I first learned InDesign, yeah, it was a big switch from Quark Express, which used to be like pretty much the only software available for desktop publishing, whether you wanted to design magazines or newspapers. Quark Express was the thing to use. It was on Apple, and there wasn't anything else really around. And InDesign came along, and now I think it's the other way around. I think InDesign has probably 90% or at least 70-80% of the market, and I don't really know what's happened to Quark Express. And a lot of it is to do with the fact that Adobe were very well known. They were able to introduce the software in a way that made it seem easy to use and quickly get going. And that's, I think, it's very important for software, that people can quickly achieve something from it, quickly learn it, do the basics. Obviously, it's sophisticated enough to reward people who spend more time with it. But yeah, definitely that's an important issue. So it's been a really interesting chat, and yeah, I'm sure we'll revisit this. It surprised me actually that an ERP has these functions. So thanks for talking about it. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. I appreciate you asking and spending the time to learn about our solution.
All right.
Send us an email at sales@roboticsandautomationnews.com to register for one of our many upcoming webinars. And if you'd like us to host your webinar, we have a range of options, including long-term lead generation packages and marketing campaigns. We look forward to hearing from you soon.